Hello, hello, hello. Wow, look at how many folks are already here. Okay, so if you are tuning in, I see a few of you have said where you're tuning in from. I love to see that. Hi, Ivan from Serbia. Oh my goodness, we have people all over the world watching right now, which is very exciting. I'm Sunny Lenarduzzi. If you're not familiar with me, welcome to our live client case study. This is a really, really cool story, and I know that it's going to be really exceptional and inspirational for you, and also very value packed. Hello, hello. Oh my gosh. Team Heaps, hello. We have our fellow Authority Accelerator clients here tuning in from Vietnam at 2 a.m. You are wild. We appreciate you. Sales guy Joe from Illinois, Guy from Victoria, BC, Olukemi from London, UK. Oh my goodness. North Carolina is here. We love to see it. Okay, so what we are doing today, and a little context if you're unfamiliar with this and you're brand new, we love to talk to our clients in our Authority Accelerator program. So if you aren't familiar with what that is, I'm the founder of the Authority Accelerator program, and it helps you take your expertise, your zone of genius, package it, and turn it into a highly scalable, highly impactful, and highly profitable online education business via an online course. So we have a ton of success stories, which I'm really proud of. And every month I like to talk to at least one of them directly so they can share their story and their transformation with you. And today is no exception. We are speaking to a really special guest, one of our clients who has quite a phenomenal story. If you're excited about this, can you please do me a favor? One, can you give this a like? Give it a little thumbs up. And two, if you're on the YouTube channel, be sure to subscribe because we do these regularly and they're always super fun and super helpful. So let's dig into a little bit of the details behind this story before we bring in our special guest. So tell me if you can relate to this, and just put shiny in the comments if you can relate to this. There are a million shiny objects flying at us every single day. Am I right or am I right? There's new platforms, new trends, new things we have to use or else our business is going to die. No, we don't prescribe to that at all. We believe in timeless. We believe in transformation. We believe in proven, bulletproof methodologies that work and stood the test of time. So once you learn the fundamentals of how to attract clients in your business, those fundamentals become your leaders. They become your go-tos. So your business is a machine, and you need how to operate it so that it runs out, having your constant time and attention. If your business needs your constant time and attention, you don't have a business. You have a very, very costly hobby. Okay, so we're all about building an actual. Did my mic just go away? Can you hear me? Can you? Hang on one sec. My mic is gone. We're gonna make it's okay. Better. Or cut out. But that's okay. It's bringing up still. Jill. The scenes. It's okay. Let me unplug this. A different mic. Does that work? Can you hear me better now? That's better? We're good? We're good. Okay. Hopefully that is better and you can all hear me. Can you let me know in the comments if you can hear me okay? Just give me a yes in the comments. Yay. Okay, great. All right. What would this be without a little tech issue on the top, you know? Why not just roll with it? So I don't know where I broke up, but can you give me a shiny in the comments if you have ever experienced shiny object syndrome in your business? Or if you're trying to start a business and you're constantly feeling pulled by, I got to start a new platform, I got to get on this new trend, I got to try this new thing, and you're so overwhelmed. So we don't prescribe to that in our program. That's not something that we even bother with, because we know that when you have a proven methodology and you have the fundamentals in your business, it works. And those tools and fundamentals become your go-tos for the rest of time to create a highly scalable business. So we're all about creating peace, purpose, and profitability by creating an online program. So I'm getting a lot of shinies in the comments. I'm just going to put this on the screen. Shiny times 10. I hear ya. I totally hear ya. We got a lot of shinies in the comments, so I know you all will relate a lot to this story. So every business is a little different, and the ways that you operate your business are maybe going to be a little bit different, but the fundamentals never change. Your business becomes super predictable when you have the right blueprint and methodology in place. You can project, you can plan, you can breathe. Doesn't that sound nice? You can have consistency. In our Authority Accelerator program, we walk you through a process of knowing exactly what you need to know as the fundamentals so you can never run out of ideal clients. And your online course can just continue to grow and have an impact. And that's exactly what we helped Gerald achieve. And Gerald is our guest today, and I will be bringing him on in just a second. But if you're excited for consistency, for big impact, for growing an online course business, can you put course in the chat? I would love to see it. Hopefully all those shiny folks are like, yes, that's what I need. Thank you so much. Joaquin, thank you so much. You shared to your 90K small business owners. That's awesome. So here are just a few of the milestones that Gerald has achieved since working with us in the Authority Accelerator program. So before enrolling into our program, he spent 2.5 years trying to figure everything out on his own, which led to very little progress and then constantly needing to learn something new and spend some time reading, testing, trying, learning, failing, and repeating. The process of trying to do it on his own and relying solely on free content just wasn't sustainable. After finally making the plunge to enroll into our Authority Accelerator program and following our system step by step, he finally got the blueprint that allowed him to enroll 17 clients into his program and generate $66,000 in less than 30 days. Pretty amazing, right? $66,000 in less than 30 days. Love it. And since joining the program, he can now focus on welcoming his newborn baby, who's just 10 weeks old. So we're so happy Gerald had the time and had enough sleep, I think, to be here with us today and spend more time with his family. So we're live with Gerald today. We're going to talk about how he went from constantly failing forward and no authority to making $66K in 30 days without a single paid ad, all organically, to help executive chefs go from feeling frustrated with staffing and exhausted from constantly running in operations to being organized and systematized in the office, highly productive in the kitchen, and focused on what they need to manage so that they can lead, mentor, teach, and inspire the next generation of chefs running their operations so it doesn't run them. So if you are excited about this, let us know in the chat. Give me a big heck yes, and we're going to bring Gerald on in a second. And I just wanted to let you know, if you're sitting there going, yeah, this is what I want to do. I want to start an online program. I want to start an online business. This is my sign. Take this as a sign. The first thing you need to do is just go to sunnyleonarduzzi.com/apply. So I'm going to put this into the chat so you can go ahead, fill out your application thoroughly, get the process started so you can speak to a real person on my team and we can support you with the best next steps. And you very well could be sitting here with me as our next case study. All right, without further ado, let's bring on the one and only Gerald. Hi, Gerald. How are you?
Excellent. Thanks. How are you?
I'm so good. And I'm so happy you're here. Your story is phenomenal. And I know a lot of people are here excited to hear exactly, what happened with your transformation and how this all, changed for you. So I'd love to start from the beginning. Tell me about your journey as an entrepreneur.
Well, so my journey as an entrepreneur started after about 30 years of being a professional chef. So I started off at a fairly young age, washing dishes, working my way through the kitchen. In 2016, I really wanted to kind of, upgrade myself as a professional. And then I knew I wanted to head the entrepreneurial route at some point. So I started an LLC and I started working on becoming a certified coach. And then finally stepped out of operations December 31st, 2019. I wanted to start 2020, a series of events, a strange series of events. My dad had a heart attack, thinking about how short life is. I was like, you know what? We're going into the new year. If I don't try now, it's only going to get harder. So
in 2020, what a year to make this all happen, right? Very interesting timing.
Yes.
That's a lot of things at once. So I do want to dig into how that affected your business and how that affected your story. I mean, you had worked in the executive chef, professional chef industry for 30 years at that point?
30 years. Yeah. Well, just shy of 30 years. So
Okay.
29. But just shy. And I had worked in all positions. I'd been an executive chef for 6 years at that point, an assistant executive chef, and in executive management of culinary operations, ranging anywhere from $2.5 million annually to 15 million annually
Wow.
in food
Wow.
sales. So
So a ton
all
of
over the place.
experience, but still feels like quite a departure and transition to
Hmm.
go from that to I want to create an online program. So one, I want to know why an online program, and two, how does the program you've created align with your own journey and story?
Well, let's start with the first one. The first piece, there there's a series of different things that I've done throughout my career in addition to running an operation. So I'm a competitor at heart. I worked to become the captain of the culinary Olympic team for the United States, and I worked really hard to become a certified master chef. So um, I had to make sure that my operation was a given before I could work on all of these things on top of it, which was no small feat. I spent a lot of time trying to get the information in order to make my operation run smoother, find grease for the gears. And there's not a lot of chef specific training, even though a lot of principles, and as you even said, like fundamentals, there's a lot of fundamentals of business and operation that apply in the kitchen world. But if you don't add the hospitality piece, if you don't add, that, I guess the segment specific jargon to it, it doesn't make sense, and it doesn't feel real. So I kept looking and looking and looking and looking and looking and looking. And I said, you know what, once I finally get this cracked, I have to share what I've learned, because this is foolish for anybody else to go through this process as well.
Right, absolutely. And I think that's a big clue and a big key. And we like to talk about this a lot is thinking about the struggles, the challenges, the friction that you've faced in your career or your expertise or field of play, as we like to say. That very well could be the thing that you can then help the next generation of folks coming up avoid. And that very well could be the very topic of your program and how you can have an impact on people. I know that's played a big part in, the work that you've done and the program you've created, which is amazing. I also want to touch personally just on you do have a newborn, a 10-week-old. I
I
am not
do.
far behind you. A baby is going to come any day now. And I'm just curious for you. We've had actually so many parents that I've been able to speak to who are
Mm.
members of our program, and how much becoming a parent or your kids motivate the decision to make the career change and have an online program. So, how much did knowing you were becoming a dad play a part in this?
Tremendous. I guess all of our stories as parents start as children. I would have liked to have had better relationship with my dad as a child. I have a good relationship with him now, but as a kid, I would have liked to have had a better relationship, and I know that was because he was working to support a family, and I get it. I get it now. I worked really hard through my career with a lot of focus on my career, knowing full well that I wanted to have a family a little bit later on in life. I know plans don't always work out. They say, like, if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans.
Totally.
So I kind of had that concern, but I was like, well, this makes the most sense. And I also wanted to be able to be present for my kids. I wanted to be a part of their life, and I wanted to be on the other side of it. I wanted to be a better dad than my dad. And I mean that in the most respectful way I can say it, right? Um, and so when I started looking at my dad after having a heart attack, I realized how short life was. And I said, if I wait on this, I'm never actually going to make this move. And I've built so many other people's businesses for them that I knew that if I didn't take a shot and try and make this business my own, I was going to regret it for the rest of my life. And I needed
Mm.
to invest all my time and energy into building something that would create legacy for my family, as opposed to living on a salary that somebody else is paying me while consuming a massive amount of my time and energy.
I know there's so many people tuning in right now who can so wholeheartedly relate to everything that you just said. And thank you for sharing so openly. If you are watching this and if anything that Gerald just said resonated with you, one, if you can share that or just put legacy into the comments to show a little love and support, because that really is why we do what we do. We always say that we're not just teaching you how to build a business or build a course. What we're teaching you is to create a legacy and create an online program that can have success ripples far beyond your imagination and far beyond when you're here or gone. So I just love that was really your purpose and your why. And I know that you're executing on that right now. So it's very cool to see the full circle, full transformation. I also know, before we get into the tactics, because we are going to dive into some really amazing tactical advice if you are looking to build an online program, finding a niche within a niche, the key to saving time and sanity and making more money when creating a course, and placing a price on your expertise. We're going to get into those in a second, but I think this is really important. We are obviously here live. This is a free piece of content. You just told me offline, you said, I consumed your content for like a decade before I made the decision.
A decade, whole decade. Yep.
Wild, makes me feel old.
Mm-hmm.
Before you made the decision to enroll in the Authority Accelerator. So I want to talk about that because I know there are people here who have been to every single one of our case studies, who have watched every single YouTube video, and they're not seeing the progress necessarily that they want to see. So I'm curious for you, what made the difference when you actually enrolled in the Authority Accelerator to make this happen in a sustainable way?
I would say the simplest way to explain it would have been to have those very same pieces that you had talked about for literally the decade of me listening to you, laid out in a fashion where one step led into the next one naturally, with the support and the tactical pieces to really hone in and execute at that step.
I love that. It's really we like to say it's like you have a puzzle piece for a free piece of content, but you have the whole puzzle when you have a program to actually create the A to Z transformation. I'd love to know, when you were in the space of kind of trying to figure this out on your own for so long, what were you doing to try and figure it out? And what were some of the mistakes that you ran into?
Besides screaming at my computer, huh? There were some rough days. It was literally, the best way I could explain it was figuring out this piece, like this one piece of like, okay, I listened to Sunny talk about an ICA. Okay, well, so an ideal client. Well, what is an avatar? And then it's literally like taking my simple brain and trying to figure out what avatar even means. And then it's like going down the rabbit hole of figuring out what an avatar is for, I don't know, however long I deemed necessary until I thought I figured it out. And then like Googling avatar, and then looking at how X marketing agency develops an avatar profile, and then trying to develop an avatar profile and having no real connection with what that means. But it was literally like that microscopic inch or millimeter, really, every step of the way. It's like, okay, well, now I need a program, or now I need a hosting site, and now I need an online hosting site. Okay, well, which one? So let's go look at a bunch of them, and let's watch their tutorials. Let's do a trial. And there was so much trial and error and figuring it out, and little clarity as to if it was even the right direction, if it was actually going to lead to anything.
I'm so curious. I think this is a really great point. So you spent, the decade trying to like piece this together. When you got into the program, how long did it take you to go from I enrolled in the program to I have just generated $66,000 in 30 days? What was the timeline?
It's about 4 months.
Right.
But two of those months were really me doubting myself in what I was thinking in the program.
Right. So, but even still, 10 years versus 4 months. I just think such a great illustration of the power of having the blueprint at your fingertips. All right, so let's dig in. Let's dig into these tactics, because I know this is going to be really helpful for people. Number one, finding a niche within a niche. I know everyone here has probably heard me say niche down to blow up. And it is a big factor as to why our clients' programs are so successful, because we do not want them competing amongst what's already out there. We want them to carve out their own space. So you have done that really well. So I want you to talk about how you used our process to really identify the right segments and the right niche within a niche when it came to chefs.
Well, literally going through the steps of looking at the niche that I served and looking at the problems that I solved, taking all of the tactical pieces, feedback from family and friends, and really just a pulling that all together and looking at it clearly on a spreadsheet and saying, wow, this is actually who it is that I serve. And probably one of those 2 months that I wasted was spent like, is this really who I serve? Is that
Mhm,
really who I want to serve? Does that make any sense?
mhm,
Absolutely.
mhm.
My brain and we spend a lot of time trying to come to terms with each other.
I mean, I
Um,
hear you. I think everyone can relate to that.
sorry. So just looking at that and realizing, okay, and saying, I serve executive chefs, professional professional chefs who are chefs over multiple food service venues or multiple restaurants, several different pieces under their charge. Is that a big enough market? And obviously that was something that I was worried about.
Mhm.
And then I had to deal with the internal struggle of saying, do I want to teach these people how to cook? And quite honestly, I came to the decision that that's actually another piece of my ICA profile is they know how to cook. They don't need me to teach them how to
I
cook.
need to pause it right there because it's so good. It's so, so good. So I just want to pause it there because this is such a good teachable moment. So when we work with clients in terms of determining who their ideal client is, part of the process is we want to identify three key factors. So one specific ideal client at one specific place on their journey seeking one specific outcome. You have to get that granular because otherwise, in this case, when I see that you're working with chefs, I assume you're teaching people how to cook. But it makes perfect sense that they're already professional chefs. So the tipping point on their journey is not needing to cook or learn how to cook. It's actually needing to know how to run the business in a smooth way. And so they can be
Mhm.
more effective in terms of operations and even more effective in the kitchen and the thing that they love to do. So I hope that that hits home. And I just want you to drop ideal client in the comments if that makes sense. You have to know where the person is at that you are serving specifically, because otherwise you're going to go broad. And let's just say you wanted to serve chefs in general, you would have a program that is so overstuffed and you would have no idea who you're marketing it to. And it would be so hard to grow, sell, or scale. So that was great. And I didn't want to interrupt you.
No, it's okay.
But
But
I'm
that program you just
yeah, yeah,
the program you just described, I did that once before and it
yes,
doesn't work. That
yes.
doesn't work either.
Yeah, I think that's really important to touch on. So you had actually created a course in 2020 before joining the Authority
Mhm.
Accelerator.
Yeah.
And so it was, tell me what that course was about versus what this course is about and why they're so vastly different.
Well, I mean, the first course was literally like everything I thought I knew. And it was 120 some modules. And I mean, it was, oh God, it was
120. My God.
and oh, hold on. Actually, you know what? Since we're making fun of myself, because
I'm
I'm
not making fun
totally
of you. I'm
open to
laughing
it.
with
No,
you,
no,
not
no,
at you.
no, no, you can totally laugh at me, right? Because I was going back and I was like, no, it needs more. No, it needs more.
Oh
It
my
needs more. It
gosh.
needs more. Oh yeah, it
Okay,
was
can I
terrible.
just, I do just want to, this is very
Sorry.
common. This is such a common mistake. We talk about this a lot. So people think that when you create an online course, you got to stuff it with everything you know. We call this the curse of the expert because you have 30 years of experience. Of course, you could create a course that's like 5,000 hours long. But what do people have the least of? What does your client have the least of? What is their most precious resource? Time. So it is your job, and it's the first thing we do in our program, is to identify the ideal client journey and make it as efficient as possible to get your client
Mhm.
results. Because if you're creating a course where someone has to watch 120 modules, you're not going to have any client results for a very long time. And then it's really hard to prove your offer. And then it's really hard to continue selling it. So was that something you ran into? Was like you had sort of initial success with that program and then it just didn't sell?
Yeah, exactly. That was exactly the case. I had people in the program who really valued different parts of it for different reasons.
Yeah.
And I couldn't, there was no one path of learning because different things led to different things. There was no real easy
Well, and
transition
also, yeah, and also
in.
that shows too that there's different ideal client avatars, which is not what you want for a course. Essentially, you had different people at different stages. So they were all
Right.
taking different things out of the course, but that makes it really hard to figure out who you're marketing to.
Absolutely. And you have a mantra that that ended up on my wall for a while I was kind of going through my process, and it was transformation over information, transformation over information. And I was literally like, that was what I was repeating to myself as I was like revising this course that went into 9 modules. I made them a little bit long, but worked through some things. But literally, it was like, no, it's about transformation, not information. Transformation, not information. And like that was just one of those things where I just kept like hammering into myself. And on the in the post interviews, I'm sorry, in the post course interviews with a lot of my chefs, that was very much so what they were
Mm.
talking about was the transformation aspect of it, where they were talking about there was enough information and time to implement without having all of these other frills and all of this other unnecessary fluff.
That's the best compliment. That makes me so happy. What are some of the transformations with your clients that you've been the most proud of in terms of this program that you've just recently built?
Um, Really growing a food program. Like
Mm,
the name of the course is Beyond the Food. So most people think that a chef's job is 90% food or maybe even 99% food. And really, when you get to the executive chef level, you are, if you're lucky, 10 to 15% food.
yeah.
The rest of it is the boring, dull admin stuff, which is actually, I, I'm scared to admit, I actually enjoy that stuff nowadays because numbers make sense, working on staffing issues. So I broke my course down to 5 key principles: staffing, leadership, measurement of productivity. Um, Sorry, I'm normally able
No,
to
that's okay.
rattle this off, but I'm a little screen shy right now. Um, Planning and clearly defining.
Yeah.
So a lot of mindset shifts within that. And so what we're seeing is the chefs who are more staffing focused being able to have an employee staffing pipeline
Mm,
to find their next several hires. Every restaurant everywhere, every operation everywhere is struggling for employees. And the chefs that I work with, they're looking for staffs of hundreds of cooks, of hundreds of hospitality employees. So that's a really big deal. But a concept that a lot of them haven't necessarily adopted in looking at the pipeline more than their next hire. Like not only where's their next hire coming from, but who can they talk to? Where can they find them? And
which
so go ahead. I'm
I was
sorry.
just going to say, which ultimately makes their job so much easier because if you're constantly in this cycle of, oh no, someone left, now I got to fulfill. And I think it's really important for
Mhm.
people to understand you're not working with a chef who has one restaurant. You're working with
Right.
somebody who has multiple outlets, as you taught me is the term. So has multiple restaurants or facilities that
Mhm.
they are managing within one
Mhm.
sort of overarching hub. That's a lot of people to be worried about.
Mhm.
And if your sole focus has been, I'm a great chef, I know what I'm doing in the kitchen, but in terms of running the operations of something of this size, like that's a huge challenge. And that speaks
Mhm.
again to knowing exactly who your ideal client is. Because if you were working with a chef at a restaurant of one, much different ballgame, much different
Mhm.
needs for that client. So I think that also speaks to the amount of work that you put into knowing exactly who you're serving. Were you going to mention anything else there? Or was that sort of wrapped up perfectly?
I think my point was made. I'm good. Okay.
Okay.
I warned you
Perfect.
before. I can talk. I'm a little bit of a chatterbox,
I
but
mean,
I think we're
ditto. Okay, so the second point is the key to saving time and sanity and making more money when creating a course. So let's talk about this because I think it's a misconception often when people are trying to create an online program in the way that they do
mm,
it. And we kind of touched on it a second ago that you had created another course kind of on your
mhm,
own and it wasn't sustainable. So let's
mhm.
talk about how you saved your sanity by leveraging our process.
Well, so literally building the program, pre-selling my program through the ICA interview process led me to really understand the critical issues. I had this hypothesis of the things that we needed to deal with in a
Mhm.
program. And then in talking to my ICAs, I was really very quickly able to identify people who didn't fit that, which fortunately there weren't many who made it into my ICA call list. Um, but it allowed me to really understand in priority what the biggest concerns were of my ICAs. And then when it came time to sell and then roll out the program, it all just continued to get more honed in. It continued to get sharper and sharper and more clearly defined. And going from lesson to lesson, understanding, okay, there's another piece here that's missing. We need to teach on this piece, or even not even in addition to that, having the calls in between, being able to have people ask the same question and saying, okay, well, I guess it seems like I should actually go back and review this, revise this. I need to figure out how to teach this better because there's more here that would have an impact. And being able to drive a point home so that they could actually learn what I was trying to teach.
That was said so perfectly, and I want to emphasize it because I think that when you have some sort of expertise or where you have a topic that you know that you could teach on, it doesn't mean you know how to teach it. And
Mhm.
the only way to become a great teacher of your expertise so it actually lands with your client and they can actually have the transformation you're trying to help them achieve is to test it first. And that's why our model is exactly what you just said: pre-sell and then test your curriculum in a live setting with your clients first, which saves you so much time, because otherwise the alternative is you think you know what you should teach and you think you know how to teach it. You create the whole course, which happens unfortunately all the time. We have clients come to us all the time and they say, I've been trying to build this course for 2 years and nothing's happening. And then they enroll in our program and they get it off the ground in a matter of months because they're
Mhm.
testing it. And the curriculum is so much more impactful that way. So I think it's important to understand that delivering your curriculum in a live setting first allows you to master the art of teaching your concepts to make the base impact and make your evergreen program much better than it ever could be. Has that sort of been your experience thus far?
Absolutely. It's so much more streamlined.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the fluff that removed, and it's interesting you talk about the expert's curse, right? But it's literally, you think, or I shouldn't say you, I was thinking that, or I would think that like this one thing was critical for someone to learn in order to understand it. But that's only my perspective. And actually teaching it and talking it through with very accomplished chefs. I mean, I was really flattered by the group that was with me going through this program, um, and seeing how they needed to learn it, and being able to have them give me real, honest feedback and be excited about that as
Mm-hmm.
well. It taught me even more about what I needed to teach or how I needed to simplify a lesson. Um, and it opened me up to a lot of discovery about myself and the way I would think about things too. So I wouldn't have done that without the process of building the program. And I remember hearing you talk about that when I was watching a rocket training on YouTube, free rocket training. I was thinking, you are out of your mind. Um, and it's funny because I really recognized, like, well, obviously she's doing something right. So there's probably something there. And that was a
Yeah.
big piece of what led me to decide to enroll into the program as well, was like, okay, I'm really uncomfortable with this,
But here we are on the other side of it.
but
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
exactly. And I would do it every any program I ever build from this point forward, I would do it exactly the same way.
That's awesome. I love to hear that. That's so great. Um, so let's talk about probably one of the hardest concepts when it comes to creating an online program, which is pricing. Because,
Mm,
I mean, you mentioned it, you have 30 years of expertise as a chef. Um, and that's a lot. And the irony is, oftentimes the first thing that we want to do is undercharge. Even though you have this wealth of knowledge and experience and you know you can really support your clients, you just, for whatever reason, want to undercharge. If you are watching this and you're trying to figure out a price for a program and you know that you're like not really sure and it's really tricky for you, put price in the chat. So how did you use our process to determine the right price for your program? and not undercharge.
There was there was so much discovery there. It was a great deal of fun, and it was incredibly, I guess, painful. Looking at the opportunity cost, the time and energy cost that people were going through, the waste of resources, the frustration. Um, in some cases, literally, I could even say in my case, literally the wholesale destruction of a personal life, in addition to trying to run the operation. There was a tremendous cost that people have when they don't have these skill sets.
Mm-hmm.
And in a lot of ways, I had kind of protected myself from actually recognizing and seeing that. And I remember coming up with my first price and talking it over with my wife, and um, who helps me tremendously in the business. I- And and I remember saying the price out loud and thinking that I was out of my mind. And I remember her thinking the same thing, like, really? And then going back, and because of the very tactical way that you put it together, like you can actually see it on paper of like, that's actually a discount. It's
That's a deal.
that's actually cheap. It's kind of, like, let's let's not spend $20,000 on a divorce. Like, hey, and let's get some things right in our life.
Yeah.
And or not losing 10% of sales in an outlet because you can't properly staff the outlet. There's no limit to the amount of money that could cost you if you're not paying attention to it.
Absolutely.
And so it was, again, probably one of those pieces that I wasted way too much time trying to talk myself into doing, but a phenomenally relevant piece to my success.
I'm so curious. I just want to break this down a little bit further and have you speak to it because when we say cost, so when you determine the price of a program, part of how
Mhm.
we teach determining the price is identifying the cost to your ideal client of not having that solution and not
Mhm.
having that outcome, which you just spoke to. Um, and you described a lot of it in terms of like the financial cost. But we also want to know mentally, emotionally, what is the cost to your ideal client of not having the solution you provide? So when you dug into those pieces, what were some of the things that came up that really surprised you?
Well, I mean, the suicide rate among chefs is actually really tragically high. Alcoholism is high. Drug use
Mhm.
is high. It's an already high stress field, and as you start managing more and more of other people's money, it only gets more stressful.
Right. I mean,
Um,
you mentioned you were managing like a $15 million restaurant at some point.
at one point, yep,
Yeah, like that
yes.
is an immense amount of pressure on you. So outside of just
Mhm.
the financial cost of not staffing properly or having a high staff turnover, you're also dealing with the cost of mentally not feeling well,
Mhm.
constantly under duress and stress, constantly at the beck and call of your entire team who needs you and needs answers from you, having no time management, having no time to yourself, having no flexibility, no,
Mhm.
no brain space, no freedom. So I think it's important to, sorry, go ahead. What were you going to say?
No, no, you got it. I'm just like nodding my head, like, yeah, there's that. I didn't
Like
mention that,
that's
but yes,
all of those
absolutely,
things.
absolutely, yes, that too.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's important for everyone here who is wanting to create an online program. Think about the cost. Think about the cost of not having the outcome that you want to help people achieve. And it's big. And it's not just the financial cost, it's also mentally and emotionally, and what people will be willing to invest to get that time back, to get their energy back, to get their mental health back. And you'd be really surprised at that. And my goal is when people do price their program, they're like, they say exactly what you said. And they're like, that's a deal. Like that's
Mhm.
it. You're pricing it adequately and it's a high ticket price point, but you're like, that is actually incredibly reasonable considering all of the value that I'm providing to this person with the outcome of this program. So that was really helpful in how you broke that down. Thank you.
Well, that's one of the questions that I would ask in a sales call generally, and I guess maybe we're going to be a little more tactful or tactical. Is like, what would you give for a good night's sleep? You
Yes.
know,
Yes.
and so for me, a good night's sleep comes when I know that my staffing's squared away. I know that my food is squared away for the next day, and I know that I have a plan for the week ahead. I can have a good night's sleep on those
Yeah.
things. When was the last time you had a good night's sleep?
Oh,
Like, and what would you give for it?
yeah.
And that's a no-brainer for me. And the only reason I can speak to that is because literally I lived that for maybe probably the last decade of my 30 years,
Totally. That is so helpful. Such a great question to ask because it really does dig into the non-monetary costs for people and just how important it is for them. I want to wrap up with just a few really sort of simple questions. But before I do that, first of all, if you're sitting here going, okay, this makes total sense. And maybe you're sitting there like Gerald was going, she is out of her mind. But maybe I'm onto something because if you're on our channel, we have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of success stories just like Gerald's. And if you're sitting there going, okay, I think this is the right time for me to apply, that's your first best step. Like, it doesn't hurt to apply. So I'm going to drop the link once more in the chat. It's also on the screen. If you go to sunnyleonarduzzi.com/apply, you can apply to speak to somebody on my team so we can guide you on the best next steps to creating your online program. All right. So what would you say made the biggest difference for you in making this a reality, making your online program a reality, being in the Authority Accelerator?
Well, I was spending some time trying to figure out like that one piece that really stood out. And for me, it was actually pulling it all together and understanding the 30-day cash flow plan, which is, a very tactical lesson in the program with the sheet, with a step-by-step process as to how this business could actually be a business. And that was, it might be robust to say everything, but that was a lot. Like, okay, I've put this much hope and faith into this program. This piece says that if I follow this plan, then at the end of this plan, I will be here.
Yes.
And I was.
Right. 30 days, $66,000 in cash flow in the business. Not a bad deal, right? That's awesome. I mean, it works if you do the work. That's what I always like to say. And I also like to say, like, this program has been around since 2019, the Authority Accelerator. And if it didn't work, we wouldn't still be here. And if it didn't work, we wouldn't be speaking to a new client success story every month. So trusting the process is hard when you have no proof. But if you're here watching this, you've obviously seen a lot of proof. And Gerald is just another example of that proof. If you have questions for myself or for Gerald, we're going to open up some live Q&A before we do wrap up. And my last question for you is this. And I think this will be really interesting considering, you did consume my content for like a decade before making the decision to enroll in the Authority Accelerator. What would you say to the version of yourself who is sitting there watching the free content and not being able to actually put the puzzle pieces together, and the person who's here, who's doing that exact thing? They know they want to enroll. They know they want to be a part of the program. What would your advice be?
A couple of different things. I think the first one would be the encouragement to say, make the investment. And you literally just said it. And it's, if you do the work, it will absolutely come back to you if you do the work. And the funny thing is, I would also add, don't overthink it. Follow the program. Stick with the program. Another thing that you say, I guess I have been listening to you for a very long time because I sound kind of like you. Stick with the program and avoid shiny object syndrome. Like you put shiny in the chat, like avoid the shiny objects. It's just like an exercise program or learning a cuisine. If you stick with one and you learn it and you do it consistently, it will work.
Yeah.
And this one absolutely works. And I guess the other piece that I had was like, pay attention to the things that you feel like you don't need to do, because those are usually the things that you have to do. That like, she's out of her mind. There's no way I need to pre-sell a course and then build it with people. They're going to think I'm out of my mind. Yeah, that one, it worked a lot better than the first method.
I think that's a big clue. Sometimes where you feel resistance is on the other side of that is actually where you're going to have your biggest wins. So I think that makes a big, big difference. Thank you so much for your time. Is there anything that you wanted to wrap up with or say before we hop off?
Well, I I definitely want to wish you well and
Oh, thank you.
congratulate you. I doubt that I'm the first to congratulate you and tell you that I'm so excited for you. And I really hope that everything goes well and
Thank you.
um, have a very healthy baby and you have a very healthy delivery.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for all that you do, all the work that you've done, putting your team together, um, having undergone my own process. And I'm a ways from where you are, but having built what I've built so far, I know that you've definitely put in a ton of work, and I'm grateful for how much that you give,
Mm,
how much you support your community, and how much you help everybody.
thank
So
you.
you,
That was really
thank you.
nice.
But it's hard. It's truly genuine. I am honestly grateful. I wouldn't be sitting here if it wasn't for your program or for the
Mm,
work that you have done and for how great the team is that you've built around you, because everybody that I've ever interacted with has been no nothing short of absolutely phenomenal.
Oh,
So
that is so great to hear. I mean, my team is the best. I'm so grateful for the team that I built and the people I have around me. And beyond that as well, like we think about everything in our business as a legacy. And if I could give one piece of unsolicited business advice to everybody here, think about everything you do and every person you work with as a legacy part of your business. So even our clients, we will say no to people if we don't think that you're at the right place and ready to do the work and we can't see ourselves working with you for the rest of our life. Same with our team. We don't hire people
mhm.
if we can't see ourselves working with them for the rest of our lives. So everything is about legacy. And the legacy you're creating with your program, I'm so happy for you. I'm so proud of what you've created. It feels so weird when I actually get to see the full transformation. Every time it still lights me up, and it's why I do what I do. So I just want to say thank you. And I so appreciate the kind words. And I keep saying to people, I'm like, please stop saying nice things to me. I'm super pregnant and super emotional. But I really do appreciate it. So thank you. And I'm so grateful to be on the journey with you. And I can't wait to see where you are a year from now. I mean, it's sky's the limit, as we like to say inside the program. So thank you. And thanks to everyone who tuned in and everyone who is a fellow Authority Accelerator member. Thank you for being here. And if you're sitting on the fence right now and you've been looking for a sign and you know you want to do this, apply. Just fill out the application. You're not married to anything. You fill out the application. It's the first step you can take to get over that hurdle and to start making this a reality for yourself, just like Gerald did. So thank you so much, Gerald. And thank you everyone for being here. Have a great day.